Hey guys, how's it going? So today we start the first of two lectures on creating user-defined functions. You know when you work out those sum formulas or if statements or any of those built-in commands that are part of Excel? Well, what we're going to do today is invent our own that are not part of Excel. And actually, we're going to create one that converts Celsius to Fahrenheit. So you remember this program from last lecture, right? It was called Macro Record Intro. And near the end of the lecture, I mentioned that magically behind your back, this was going on. So when you were recording that macro, Excel was copying special commands, VBA commands, behind your back and putting them in this special file. Now, this special file that was created, VBA, is what we call a sub procedure. So it always starts off with the word sub, and then it names your macro. We called it format cells. And then down near the bottom, it has an end sub, okay? So these are what we call sub procedures, and they're good for carrying out actions like formatting and things like that. But VB also supports another kind of procedure called a function procedure, and that's what we're gonna focus in on today. So here's the example we're gonna do together in a few minutes. So this one here, if you notice, there, as I go over these numbers, is this new thing we're gonna create today, a function. And what makes functions different than sub-procedures is that functions return, in this case, numbers. They can also return words. And that's going to give them a bit more power when we want to calculate things that have never been invented as part of the Excel application. All right, let's create our first real VBA program. Now, before we get rolling, I want you to check one thing. It might be already set the right way, but check your macro security. I'm in the developer ribbon. Press macro security. I want it on disable all macros with notification. So it'll warn you, hey, there's a macro coming, then you can say enable it. That's the best and easiest way to deal with that. Okay, let's set up a couple of columns first. We'll do it really simply. I'll have a centigrade and a Fahrenheit column, and we're going from centigrade to Fahrenheit, and we'll start off at 20. Then we'll go up to 30, and I want to keep typing anymore. So I don't know, have you ever seen this trick before? Highlight them both, and it sort of tells the Excel spreadsheet that there's a pattern, and then we'll just drag it to, I don't know, right about there, and it'll go up by tens for us. Isn't that neat? Okay, now here is where we're going to invent this equal, and then we're going to eventually call it Celsius to Fahrenheit, something like that. But right now it doesn't exist. Now, there is no way you can record a user-defined function. It must be written from scratch. So what we're going to do is we're going to, from the developer screen, go into Visual Basic and type it in ourselves. All right, so we're on the developer screen, ribbon, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to press Visual Basic. Haven't pressed this before. And now we're in the underground. This is where all the VBA action happens. Now, we need to add a special thing called a module where we're going to put our function. So the first thing you do is you go to Insert, Module, okay? And then you see this little thing right here appear. Now it's up to us to hand type the code, okay? We're not going to rely on the macro to do it for us, the recorder or whatever. So you type in the word public, which means it's going to be known to the entire workbook. Then you type in the special word function, and then you name it. Now I've decided to call it Celsius to Fahrenheit, just like that, okay? And then I'm going to add a bracket because we are going to need to have a number come into this sort of made up special function, which is almost like a formula. And what is going to be sent to this function is the degrees in Celsius. Now, is there something special about those degrees C? No. We could have just used the letter C. You could have used D for degrees. Anything would work, okay? It's just a way to catch what's going to be sent to this function. Now, in here, it's not going to get, oh, look at that. It put the word end function for us. Thank you very much, because every beginning needs an end. And what we're going to do now is I'll tap over a little bit, and whatever you called your special function, we called it C to F, you have to use that as the answer part when you return the answer. So we're going to say that's going to be equal to degrees Celsius times, do you remember your high school math? 9/5 plus 32. Now, is there something special about degrees? Again, if you've never used programming, you might get kind of crazy about this. I could just call that C if you wanted to. Now, if I call that C, this becomes a C. It's just a container to catch something. Sometimes they call it a parameter. Okay, so that's how we use the formula. And if you want to go back to degrees, you can. I'm just going to leave it as C. Okay, it'll work. All right, now the moment of truth. We're going to close this off. It's in the computer's memory, so don't worry that you think you lost it. It's in there. Okay, now let's see if it actually remembers what we typed in. I'm going to start off with equal sign. Yes, that's good. C2. Oh, there it is. F bracket. Okay, and what are we going to do? Well, I want A4, right? So A4 bracket, enter, and it worked it out. Okay, so see this 20, which we call A4, that was being sent to that little brackety stuff. And let me come back here again and we'll look at it. So when I was typing in 20, which was in A4 or whatever, that was being placed in here, and then the computer works out the 20 times 9/5 plus 32 to give you whatever the answer is, in our case 68. Okay, so that's where that parameter comes in. And again, nothing special about that name as long as they match. All right, now, once we've got that one in there, we don't need to put them in anymore, right? We just go down, and there you have a new invented user-defined function that converts Celsius to Fahrenheit. And there's our first foray into the world of VBA, creating these user-defined functions. You want a little challenge? How about you change kilograms to pounds? I'll leave that with you. You can go on the internet to find the conversion factor if you want, but create a function that converts kilograms to pounds. Okay, we're going to take a look at some more challenging ones in our part 2 of this introduction to user-defined functions. Thanks for listening. Take care. We'll see you in the next lecture.